A self-driving car is approaching 5 people crossing the street outside the crosswalk. The brakes fail. The only other option? The car can swerve onto the sidewalk, where one person is standing exactly where they're supposed to be. Should it? Most people say, yes, obviously. 5 lives are worth more than 1. It's simple math, right? But here's someone who disagrees. Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers in history, would say, no, you are not permitted to kill the 1, even if the 5 die. And his reasoning reveals something deeply uncomfortable about morality itself. To understand it, you need to understand his most famous idea, the categorical imperative.
Before we get to Kant, let's talk about how most people think about morality. Imagine you're facing a moral decision. Most people ask, what will produce the best outcome? Save the most lives, reduce the most suffering, maximize happiness. This is called consequentialism, morality based on consequences. The most famous version is utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number. Simple. Calculate the outcomes, pick the one that maximizes good. But Kant said, outcomes cannot be the foundation of morality. Morality isn't about results, it's about rules. Universal, unbreakable rules. This is deontology, morality based on duty. And Kant's version is the most famous. Let's break it down. Kant believed that morality must be categorical, meaning absolute, no exceptions. Not, you should do X if you want Y, but you should do X because it's good in itself, period. But before we get to Kant's rules, you need to understand where they come from. Not from feelings, not from religion, not from tradition, from reason, pure reason. Kant believed that if you're a rational being, truly rational, you can't avoid the moral law. It's not a preference, it's not a choice. It's built into the structure of rationality itself. Like 2 + 2 = 4. You can't rationally deny it. The moral law, Kant said, is written into the cosmos. And your feelings, your desires, your circumstances, none of that matters. Reason alone tells you what's right. This is why Kant's morality feels so unyielding. And yes, if you've ever tried reading Kant and felt stupid, you're not alone. His writing is notoriously dense, technical, and exhausting. The ideas are sharp. The prose is not. But beneath that brutal writing style is a very simple demand. He's not asking, what do you feel like doing? He's asking, what does reason demand? And reason doesn't negotiate. And this is exactly why some people don't like Kant. Because if he's right, your feelings don't get a vote. Kant gave us 3 formulations of the categorical imperative, 3 different ways of expressing the same core idea. First formulation. Act only according to that maxim by which you can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law. In other words, before you do something, ask yourself, what if everyone did this? Would it still work? Let's test it. Imagine everyone lies all the time. What happens? Language collapses. Trust disappears. Lying only works because most people tell the truth. So lying fails the universal law test. Therefore, don't lie, ever. Let's try another. If everyone breaks their promises, what happens? The concept of promise ceases to have meaning. Promises only work because people generally keep them. So breaking promises fails the test. Therefore, keep your promises, always. Second formulation. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of another, always at the same time as an end, and never simply as a means. People aren't objects. They're not tools for your benefit. You can't sacrifice someone, even for a noble goal, without turning them into a tool. Example, using someone without their consent, treating them as a means to your goal, is wrong, even if it produces a good outcome. You can cooperate with people, you can ask for their help, but you can't use them as if they're objects. This is why slavery is wrong, why manipulation is wrong, why coercion is wrong, not because of the outcomes, because it violates their humanity. Third formulation. Act as if you were a member of an ideal kingdom of ends, where everyone is both subject to and creator of universal laws. Imagine a society where everyone is rational and autonomous. What moral laws would they create together? They'd create laws that respect everyone's autonomy, laws that don't privilege anyone, laws that treat people as ends, not means. This is the ideal, a moral community where everyone legislates for everyone. And your actions should align with that. You're not asking, what benefits me? You're asking,
What law could I live under if I didn't know who I'd be? So those are the three formulations, but they all express the same basic idea. Morality is about universal rules, not personal desires or outcomes. Okay, now we understand Kant's system. Let's go back to that self-driving car. Remember the trolley problem? Car about to hit 5 people. Can swerve and kill 1. Most people say, swerve, save 5. That's utilitarian thinking. Greatest good for greatest number. But here's a problem with that. How do you actually know what consequences your action will produce? You're standing at a switch that controls what the car does. You think, if I pull the lever, 5 people live and 1 dies. Simple math. But can you say you know the consequences of your action? Maybe the 1 person you're about to kill was on their way to discover the cure for cancer. Maybe the 5 people were heading to commit a crime. Maybe pulling the lever traumatizes you so badly you make worse decisions for years, affecting thousands of future choices. You don't know. Utilitarianism requires you to calculate outcomes, but you're not omniscient. You can't see the future. You're just guessing. And if morality is based on consequences you can't predict, is it really morality or just gambling? Keep that in mind. Now let's look at it from a different angle. Imagine you're a doctor. 5 patients are dying. Each needs a different organ: heart, lungs, kidneys, liver. Without transplants, they'll all die. A healthy person walks into your hospital for a routine checkup. You realize this person is a perfect match for all 5 patients. You could kill this one healthy person, harvest their organs, and save 5 lives. Same math as the trolley problem. 1 dies, 5 live. Would you do it? Most people say, absolutely not. That's murder. But why? It's the same calculation as the trolley problem. 1 person dies, 5 people live. And this is where Kant's framework becomes useful, because Kant would say, both are wrong. So keep that in mind. Utilitarians are betting on consequences they can't claim to fully know, but what they could empirically verify through the senses. Kant, on the other hand, is betting on pure reason. Which is more certain? Let's see what Kant says about these cases. Here's Kant's reasoning. In both cases, you're treating someone as a means to save others. You're using their body, without consent, to produce a better outcome. In the trolley problem, you're sacrificing the 1 person on the sidewalk to save the 5. You're making a calculation. Their life is worth less. In the organ harvesting, same thing. You're using the healthy person's body as a resource to save others. Kant says, you cannot do this, even if 5 people die as a result. Because the moment you start making exceptions, the moment you say, it's okay to sacrifice 1 for 5, where does it stop? Utilitarians have to answer, at what ratio does it become okay? And they don't have a principled answer. It's just calculation. Kant says there is a principle. You never use a person merely as a means. Universal rule, no exceptions. This is what makes Kant's system different. It's based on rational certainty, not consequential guessing. But aren't consequences important? The question isn't whether they matter. It's whether morality should require you to act like a fortune teller. Now, here's where most people think Kant goes too far, because his rules don't bend. Ever. Even in the most extreme situations. Famous example. A murderer comes to your door and asks, "Is your friend hiding in your house?" Your friend is hiding there. Should you lie to save their life? Most people say, of course, lie. Kant says, no, you cannot lie. Why? Because lying fails the universal law test. If everyone lies, language collapses. So lying is always wrong, even to save a life. This is where people lose their minds. Kant, you're saying I should let my friend die rather than tell 1 lie? And Kant says, you're not responsible for what the murderer does. You're only responsible for your moral duty, which is, don't lie. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Kant says, don't lie. But does that mean you have to help the murderer? You could say, option 1, yes, they're hiding upstairs. Direct truth, helpful to murderer. Option 2, no, they're not here. Lie, violates duty. Option 3, I will not answer that question. Or even, there are 7 billion people on Earth. True, but useless. Kant forbids lying, but does he require you to be helpful to someone committing evil?
Some Kantians argue, no, you can tell a truth, just not the truth the murderer wants. You're not lying. You're fulfilling your duty to the moral law. But you're also not cooperating with the murderer's immoral action. Is that a cop-out? Or is it a way to hold two duties at once? The duty not to lie, and the duty not to be complicit in murder. Critics say, that's just playing word games. Defenders say, no, it shows reverence for the moral law while refusing to be an instrument of evil. Which side you take says a lot about what you think morality actually is. But here's what Kant gets right. Once you start making exceptions, morality becomes negotiable. Little white lies, lies for good reasons, lies that don't hurt anyone. Eventually, all lies justified if outcome is good. Where do you draw the line? And do we share the same understanding of what is good outcome? Kant says, you draw it at reason. The moral law doesn't bend to emotions, not because Kant is cruel, but because reason doesn't bend. So why does this 200-year-old debate matter in 2025? Because we're programming AI to make moral decisions. Should a self-driving car be utilitarian, minimize casualties, kill the one, save the five? Or should it follow Kantian rules, never intentionally kill anyone, even if more people die as a result? We have to choose. And the choice reveals what we think morality actually is. If you think morality is about outcomes, you'll program AI to save the most lives, even if it means sacrificing some. If you think morality is about rules, you'll program AI never to intentionally kill, even if that means more deaths. Neither answer is obviously right. Both have horrifying edge cases, but we have to choose. Because every AI system we build embeds a moral philosophy, whether we realize it or not. So here's what Kant gives us. Not necessarily the right answer, but a framework to test our intuitions. When you say, swerve and kill one to save five, ask yourself, would you also harvest organs from one to save five? If not, why not? Kant would say, because in both cases, you're using someone, and that's always wrong. You might disagree. Many people do. But the next time you're faced with a moral dilemma, or the next time you hear about an AI making a decision that feels wrong, ask Kant's question. What if everyone did this? Because maybe morality isn't about calculating the best outcome. Maybe it's about respecting what it means to be human.
Drawn to philosophy.